we need a calibre of players that, they can take on the fight, because they don't go away. The South Africans do not go away.
Did they poison us?
Did they poison? You're like Bronny, you need to get over this. You need to move on.
I never will, mate.
I want to scrum you.
DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass. We've all been there. You're driving along, minding your own business. Bang! Windscreen, crack, ass. That little chip grows into a full-blown crack, ruins your whole day. Luckily for you, though, your local team at Novus Glass are ready to help. They'll get you back on track. They'll get you back on the road. They'll get you back in a good mood. If you've got a crack or a chip on your windscreen, stop now and do something about it. Pop into Novus, 68 stores nationwide. Show them your crack. Notice it, Novus it. Call your local Novus Glass branch direct. Thank you.
Welcome to the DSPN.
He's given him. Oh, there you go. He was forward.
Oh, a punch up now in midfield. Fraser's involved.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, I was going to say this next guest needs no introduction. Well, he's going to get one because he thoroughly deserves one. If you write down any list at all of the greatest, most inspirational All Black captains, he's in your top 5, no question at all. Won a World Cup in 1987, 92 tests for our country, and then stopped playing at the beginning of 1998 when that knee just gave way. Obviously, we all remember that iconic moment in South Africa in 1996 and punching the ground when we finally won a series over there. And we go back there this year. He was around for professional rugby. 1996, part of the Blues team that went back-to-back and won those first 2. And joins us in the studio today, and it is a great pleasure, Sean Fitzpatrick.
That was very good, mate. I thought you had an auto-cue or something up there.
It's all up there, bro.
Well done.
Look,
Great to be here.
I sat there with Jeff and with Anton and with Tane and that at the World Cup doing the presentation, just to sort of bore you for a second, in 2011.
Yeah.
And we're staring down the barrel of the camera, just rabbiting away like this. And what I think it was Anton said to me after, he said, "What, do you just remember all of that stuff?"
Yeah,
true. But this is what, you do, your muscle memory.
You're a rugby nut.
Well, when your muscle memory is broadcasting and stuff, that's what you do, isn't it?
You do.
Your muscle memory, you get out there and you do what you do, and this is the easiest part of it. Look, I've got so many questions to ask you, and I want to cover, many different things here with you. But first, it is such a warm welcome back to the country, and I know that everywhere you go, you're going to be stopped everywhere you go, and people want to talk to you, people want to ask you about all these things. You watched some Super Rugby over the weekend?
I absolutely loved it. I was actually on 90th birthday on Saturday night, so I didn't get to Eden Park. Watched Friday night. I thought that was...
Yeah, I watched both too, yeah.
That was really good, actually. I was listening to one of the pundits saying there's 14 All Blacks in the Crusaders and 1 in the Highlanders that's playing, and I thought, oh God, this is going to be a bit of a romp. But no, I thought the Highlanders were really good. And then the Blues have had a lot of changes and a lot of players unavailable, and I thought they played really well.
It was a hard game to watch, that game, though, wasn't it?
It was a hard game, but what I liked was I was quite pleasing at the size of the crowd. I thought the crowds were good at both games, obviously. And as you said off air, it's what it is. This is our Super Rugby, so we've got to make the most of it.
Yeah, and enjoy it as well. And look, and if you don't, I keep saying, don't watch it if that's the case. Or if you've got something to moan about, well, you can doom scroll, you can TikTok, you can do whatever. But if you love your rugby, the competition started. It's going to be a bit scratchy to start with in the first few weeks. We know that.
Always is.
But I think we saw enough over the weekend to suggest it's going to be like it was last year, which was a hell of a comp.
It will be, and. This is our role into the All Blacks, really, and this is the preparation for the guys. So, those derbies are going to be, really well contested, and players are going to put their hands up. And I thought a number of players on the weekend were new names I hadn't heard of before, are players that we need, going forward into this season, which is a huge All Black season.
Sean, do you think that it has to be an open trial now for 18 weeks of this competition? That given a new coach, that you don't have that jersey anymore? That I know there are players who we all think, okay, they're going to be penciled in, but surely it means that everyone has got a chance to put a hand up, right?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? And who that All Black coach is going to be, we don't know yet, but it's obviously going to be one of two.
One of two? Yeah, well, that's the criteria
people
they've established, isn't it?
Jamie, for example, he's got a really good idea in terms of what's available, and he's been involved in New Zealand setup for a long time. Dave Rennie's he's been around, so he knows a lot too. But there's other names that we could talk about. This is huge moment for New Zealand rugby in terms of the preparation going forward, not only for this year but also for next year's World Cup.
Look, I had all this to ask you about, but while we're on it, we might as well get rip straight into it. Are you confident that we can? And I don't think we need to resurrect as a team or anything, but you're just confident that we can gear up and go in the right direction that we need to go.
The players need to know where they're going, and I'm confident that we've got the players to do it. We've got the setup, to win the World Cup. But this year is going to be quite a defining year in terms of our confidence going forward, because to go to South Africa and play 4 test matches against South Africa, the world champions, 3 in South Africa.
Not that they don't remind us.
Yeah, well, they are very, very good at the moment, and they've set the standard.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
I've heard you speak about this in terms of the cycle. I think we've got away from that must-win every game scenario, which I like that. I like us going in with an attitude. We're not, we're preparing for the World Cup, but we're not using our games going into the World Cup as trial matches for certain players. I think we need a core of players that play every game. I think the leadership is really important in terms of the older players knowing what's needed. And I remember back to '92 when I became captain. It was a really tough time because I didn't really want to be captain. We had a lot of new young players around that were scared of the All Black jersey, that fear of failure. But we developed a real core of leaders that just made decisions. And that's what we need. We need decision makers. It's not just the captain that makes decisions, right through the team. And ultimately, by the time we get to 27, we need 15 guys on the field that are quite comfortable making decisions.
And 8 on the bench, because that's what it is these days, isn't it? And just in terms of that, when you say that, so you're of the mind that we start looking at, I know that everyone, as these days wants 3 or 4 players in every position, but we start looking at a core of players that are essentially going to be it. Yep. Maybe 25 to 30 are going to be it.
Correct, that's right. And I look back, I keep on talking about '92 because that was a real transformational time in New Zealand rugby. Golly, we got rid of, that team in '91. We got rid of some of our greatest All Blacks. Mm-hmm. And Laurie had a vision that he wanted to develop a team that was going to be the fittest and fastest team in the world to play on the high veld. And ultimately, it took 2 or 3 years.
We did. We had hiccups every year through that year, 2, 3, and 4. We had losses. We thought we had it, and then 93 we beat Australia down in Dunedin, then we go and lose to England. Yeah. 94 we lose to France a couple of times. I mean, you know this, right? Yeah, 94, the Jeff and George Gregan try when we had Australia, we came back in that second half and played just enormously. Yeah, and there was just, look at Mertz, Andrew Mertens came in. That was a major change. Josh Crumfeld came in '94. Mertz was 95 actually. Yeah, he played against Canada. In Canada, first game.
I don't know if Josh was then too or not, but just those sort of key positions are so vital.
Can we find those guys? Have we got enough time between now and the World Cup to find them?
I think so. I think there's enough talent around New Zealand. The physicality sort of worries me a bit in terms of...
In what areas?
Well, in the forwards, in terms of... And that's what I was pleasing about Friday and Saturday night. A couple of young names in terms of ball carriers are so crucial just to pressure that advantage line all the time, the physicality at the breakdown. And, we've got some very good front rowers.
Our stocks are good there. Locks as well, I think, are looking reasonably good too.
Yeah, losing Fabian Holland that's a major issue this year for us. When you look at the core, the Retallicks, the Whitelocks, those sort of second row players who are good decision makers also. We need to make sure we have those people, and we can control the narrative in terms of the set piece, that we don't get dominated at set piece. And you think of the games we lost last year is when we got dominated in that collision area, and more so at the scrum time.
So as ball carriers, as line busters as well, we all want another Jerome, don't we? For example, playing at 6. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? This year, how do you look at it? Do you isolate and separate this year and go, the World Cup is next year, it's more important that we get this right this year? You talked about confidence before going to South Africa. the enormity that these players would take from going over there and winning that series, it's not a World Cup trial, but you just imagine what the lift would be if that was the case.
I look back at that, and when we went there in '96, we had similar to what they're doing now. Actually, we played 4 or 5 provincial games. We played the junior box, I think, within those days, and it developed a real momentum going forward into the Test series. We knew what we wanted to do in that and how we were going to play that, but the preparation was just phenomenal. Harty did an unbelievable job in terms of, and Mike Banks, the manager, in terms of where we were going, how we were going to prepare, going to Plettenberg Bay for 5 or 6 days just to be away from everything, and we went through all the team building exercises. So I'm quite excited about them going to South Africa. Because they'll take 2 teams, obviously.
Well, they have to, yeah.
You have a Saturday team and a Wednesday team, like the old tours. That was great. The Wednesday guys are trying to get in the Saturday team, and the Saturday team's trying to keep them out, which creates great competition. But ultimately, we wanted to go through that tour in '96 undefeated. So that was a matter of everyone helping everyone to make sure that we delivered the performance on a Wednesday and the Saturday.
See, I look at it in terms of the challenge aspect and just think, as a player, what you would gain personally from going there and doing that again.
Yeah.
Like just how big you would feel. And there's nothing else that you couldn't do if you managed to achieve that. That's why I think it's so important we look at that first rather than the World Cup next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was the coach of the All Blacks, I'd be pulling back on the legacy in terms of, a lot of these kids wouldn't know about '96, I would suspect. So I'd talk about '96 a lot. I'd talk about the Don Clarks. I'd talk about the BJ Lahores, the Colin Meads, about what they had to go through to win there. So I think that's important. Then we just finished a documentary on Dave Gallagher about transferring soil from his gravesite to Eden Park, and we were at Eden Park on Monday morning at 5 a.m. Transferring the soil that we got from his hometown in Donegal, and then we went to where he's buried, and his last game was in Paris in 1906 against the French. We sort of took some soil from there, and we transferred it all back to his home ground.
When is this going to be available to see?
It's on Anzac Day. They're going to
Fantastic.
show it. So it's an amazing.
This means an enormous amount to you, doesn't it? This kind of stuff.
I just think we can. The one thing we have is legacy. That is really powerful. No one else has the legacy that we have. And we need to draw on that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, going to Africa is amazing. God, I'd love to be going back there as a player. But I looked, when as I said, you've heard this before, when I walked off the field, I hugged Don Clark.
He was crying. You need to look this up, people, if you don't know this story. I mean, and Don Clark had lived there since he had actually toured there, yeah.
And he stood in the tunnel, and this is after he won the series, and he was crying and saying, "Thank you so much. I can now die a happy man."
That's what he said, yeah.
Knowing that we've beaten South Africa in South Africa. So I think all those legacy things are really important, and the new coach coming in needs to make sure that sort of part of the culture is inherent. And we had a historian from Ponsonby, because that's where Dave played his club rugby. And what I love, because Joe Stanley was there, and it was a Centurion life member, blazer tie, and Ponsonby actually does it better than most in terms of making sure that the young kids coming through. And a kid that joins the club has 3 days of being inducted into the Dave Gallagher story.
Wow.
Which is I just think
it's kind of cool, isn't it?
Amazing. I don't think we do that in the All Blacks.
Look, we don't. And one thing, and look, I didn't want to make a huge big deal about it at the time, because also you're standing in front of somebody at a press conference, but before the players went on the Grand Slam tour, we were asking them, and they didn't know what the Grand Slam was. And it's just, I'm sort of sitting there going, isn't your curiosity piqued to the point that you want to find out?
I never.
Put your bloody phone away.
One of my big disappointments was that I didn't have a Grand Slam.
You didn't have a Grand Slam. Well, 1978.
I look at 78,
yeah.
And that's for me. If I was, the coach of the All Blacks then, I would have been belting on about 78. Graham Murray's great dummy pass, and you know.
And look, and the fact that we just, the Ireland test and Andy Dalton scoring late in the corner, and then the players going out there and burying something in that corner after having a few. But these are the kind of, but I don't know whether it's our generation and we love this history more than most, or whether cell phones, I keep looking at that thing, cell phones and things have destroyed this.
Maybe.
But that to me is the essence of what being a New Zealander and being an All Black is, isn't it? To understand these things and know these things. Because if you're standing in front of those guys that did that, you can't be anything but humbled by the fact of who you're looking at and what they achieved to give you the opportunity to go and actually earn a crap load of money doing it now, right? Yeah. I don't know why the management had said they went away from that. That to me is as big it's a really big deal.
Yeah, so hopefully that will be. I was with 4 or 5 of them in Dubai on the way back from the tour, and they were fantastic. They were really, really good.
They're what, the players?
The players.
Yep.
Amazing. They, in terms of their sponsorship stuff and all that aside, the way they held themselves, I was really, really proud. And the way they spoke, we were on a couple of panels together, and the way they spoke about the All Black jersey and those sort of things, it sort of made me sort of think, okay. It's still there, but we need to make sure that continues.
When you hear things like, and again, we only speculate because we hear these things, and everyone has a friend who knows an All Black who tells us these things, that this team was factioned, that there were different cliques in the team and things like that. How can a team operate when that is the case, if that was the case? Is that, how do you eventually bridge all that back together? Because that to me is as much as a crucial component of anything going forward, isn't it?
I don't like to talk about what's going on in the current camp because you and I don't know. We're not inside the camp, and it's all hearsay. So I don't like that unless it's, it's the real story. So you look back to your own involvement in teams and things. For me, it was about when I became All Black captain. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because it just changed the way.
He doesn't mean that, Brahman.
It changed the way I thought about things.
Yeah.
In terms of transcending ages, different cultures, having to learn. I remember swearing at Inga Tuagamala in 1992 when we were playing Ireland. He did something that I didn't want him to do, and I swore at him. And he came up to me after the game. He said, "Fitzy," he said, "if you ever swear at me on the field again, I'm going to walk off." And I was like, bloody hell, tell me more. Why? He said, because that's not in our culture. You can't do that. And I was like, okay, so that's fine. And it's actually, I was speaking to Rikio Ioane about this also. One of the things I didn't like when I got into the All Blacks was that fear you had, that you were a young kid, the cowboy shores of the world, you had to earn the respect before you said anything by. And I thought, okay, well, that's in those days. But I agree that you need to earn the respect, but you shouldn't be fearful. You're not going
to play your best, are you?
No, you need to create a safe environment where the kids can put their hands up. Mertz in 95, first game against Canada, he's putting his hand up saying, why don't we do it this way? And I'm like, bloody hell, haven't even played a game yet. But that's great, and that's what we need. And, the Scott Barretts of the world and the Sean Fitzpatricks of the world, we need people like that around us, to have the Zinzans there, to have Mertz there, to have Michael Jones, those sort of players, the John Kerwins, that make decisions. And you raise that in terms of the decision makers. You need those players comfortable that can make decisions.
So empowering them.
Yeah, because what do? I toss the coin.
Yeah, you did a lot more than that. When you became captain though, and the stories are out that you and Laurie maybe not saw eye to eye, you didn't get on straight. Was that the truth?
Yeah, that was. He didn't want me as All Black captain.
Why did he take you then?
Well, because Michael Brewer got injured in the trials, and Laurie and I have spoken about this, and it took me, before he gave me any rope, he wanted to make sure that this Auckland syndrome sort of thing, that I wasn't part of that Auckland mafia. And, Zinny had to earn his respect also. Robin Brooke had to earn his respect. And ultimately we got on, in terms of respect for coach, captain, we had a really good relationship by the end of it.
Well, there's a hell of a lot of Auckland guys in that team.
There was. And, and to have, and it worked. To have Aaron Penne come in, to have Jamie Joseph come in, Ant Straw, Stu Foster, those sort of players that would get on with, like I can still remember him when he coached his last game against the French And after the start, where he said he'd never pick Zinzan Brook in '92, wouldn't pick Robin Brook, and the two guys carrying him off the field on his shoulders was Zinzan and Robin Brook, which just showed how it all
So
turned.
these relationships develop. So the new coach that comes in, it doesn't necessarily have to be instantaneous, but this is really important that everyone gets on that same page like that. I mean, it sounds so obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But this is the worry when you hear that, and this is the thing that has concerned me most, that in the review, a lot has been said about Scott Robertson and whether or not he's had an opportunity post that to actually answer that kind of thing with those people in front of him as well. I always kind of feel that it's not just I've written down what I think and then hand it to you. You've got a chance to sit in front of me and go, well, is that actually the case? I didn't think it went like that. Or so, do you think that's important too? Or is it just too late for that now?
I think it's too late now. But I think in terms of that preparation going into it and whether everyone was on the same page or not, you and I don't know, but obviously not. But I look at 92 and then I look at what Harty did in 96 saying, right, we're going to go to Africa and we're going to win this bloody series and this is how we're going to do it. I can do this, but I need you players to do this. And we all bought into it. And once you collectively buy into it, you can then start challenging each other. I can say to Ian Jones, we need to make sure we do this.
Right.
Otherwise, we're not going to achieve that. Mertz, those kickoffs need to be there.
Right.
Come to training earlier. They're going to dominate us at scrum time. No, they're not. Olo, Dowdy, Richard Lowe, this is what we need to do.
I tell you what, that's a front row, isn't it?
Yes,
Isn't that a front row?
But if everyone's on the same page, and then you have a little chink where somebody steps into another lane, you can put them to task and say, you can't do that. It's not the coach having to do that. It should be the players as much as the coach and the leadership of the other coaches doing that.
Have they called you? Has anyone called you yet?
No, I did speak to Kirky last week about something else.
Something else, not this.
Something else, not this. No, but
would you take a call? Of course, you'd take a call.
Of course, I'd take a call. But it's until they get these people in position, and I think obviously the sooner the better in terms of the coaches, especially.
Yep.
And then to be able to get that coaching group around that coach, the head coach. And I think it's also really important that those appointees are really challenged in terms of making sure that we have the right people, whether it be the forward coach, scrum coach, tack coach, all those sort of things. Those people need to be on the same page as the coach.
Do you believe in dissenting voices, though, in these situations where you can't have everyone saying yes to you all the time, that you need to be, as you say, challenged?
No, I love people challenging. Like,
right.
Laurie, when he took us over, we had this thing called a ruck machine. Like the Auckland boys had never seen a ruck machine.
A what?
We'd never heard of down and ups. And we're like, Laurie, what the...
Yeah.
We're injuring people at training because we're so physical, the trainings. And he said, you'll see why. And ultimately, by the time we got to Africa in 95, that we were just fit, fast, strong, which we hadn't had those sort of drills put into us before, but it worked.
Did they poison us?
Did they poison? Hello, Bronny. You need to get over this. You need to move on.
I never will, mate. I'm still sulking about what was it? The '76 series. When they bloody robbed us, when they pulled back Bruce Robertson. I was only 12 years old, mate, and so, I don't get it. It takes me a lifetime to get over defeats. I still remember
that beautiful try, Joe Morgan.
Bloemfontein. Wasn't that?
Yeah, that was amazing.
And also, we were watching it at home. We didn't. The Devlins didn't get a pie vidmatic until the next year when the Lions came, a colour telly. So we were watching in black and white. Yeah. And it looked like playing in a desert, those rock-hard pitches.
I remember BG wearing the, knee pads on, literally, didn't he?
Yeah, just to stop the sort of the scraping and the and then and the referee Baduzenhaden, whatever his name was, and we couldn't buy a trick, could we? In those, but that's what Don Clark was talking about, wasn't he?
I know. That's why I can't wait for this year. I think it's just going to be
they can be beaten.
Yes, they can. I think all the you look at what happened on the weekend. Scotland beating England. I would never have picked that.
And beat them well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Turn them over.
So we need a calibre of players that they can take on the fight, because they don't go away. The South Africans do not go away. And I think we showed in 96, so they were a lot bigger than us. So, size does matter. But if you have guys that are fully committed, and as you said, we need a good bench. And I think, you look at probably our best World Cup team in 2015. We had 30 players that could have played that final.
Well, when you look at who come off the bench, Bowden Barrett, coming off the bench, for God's sake, and Sonny Bill, I think, came off the bench, didn't he?
Yeah. So that's, we just need, and if you talk about a cycle, that's the one thing a cycle can do is develop those 30 players.
Have we got enough time to get this right between now and then?
Well, we've got 18 months, haven't we?
Well, I'm talking about the South African tour for a starter. We've got, but by the time the coach gets appointed, he's probably got about 3 or 4 months before the Nations Championship. And then we play those 3 tests, and then the next ones where we go to Africa. Have we got time?
So why did we win at Eden Park and then get beaten so badly a week later?
We were up at half time in Wellington.
Yeah.
People forget that bit, okay? And then we got blown away in that second half completely. In that last 10 minutes at Eden Park, we were really under the cosh, remember? They were really coming at us. But for the first 60 or 70 minutes, we went out there and we played really well, I thought, and contained that team.
So what I like about Africa is they're going to have the first 3 tests in Africa, they're going to be just mind-blowingly tough. But you've got to back up 7 days later. And that at the World Cup, you get quarterfinal, semi-final, final, which and we've got a pretty tough draw at this World Cup coming up. So we need to be able to front up. We beat Scotland, and by Thursday the following week they were still sore, they were still tired, because Scotland had taken so much out of them. Scotland was the same. They had a very difficult week late, and then we came to England and we couldn't back up with those same players. So I think Africa is going to be a real defining moment in terms of how it's going to look for 2027.
That means that effectively we're going to have, as you say, 2 teams. But you guys, the essence of your team played those 4 tests. I called it a 4-test tour in 96. I know that the first one wasn't tagged on, but I know that you thought of it as a 4-test tour, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
Because even it was Tri-Nations, it was 4 and,
Well, we wanted to make a statement in Cape Town that we could beat you. They were the current world champions, and they were a very good team.
Remember, we hadn't scored a try against them in the previous 2 matches.
No.
Yeah, okay, even in Christchurch, we didn't score a try, even though we won that one, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And we couldn't in the final as well. So how important was that when finally Glenn jinked in and away he went?
God, you know.
Mate, I'll never forget this, mate. Sean, it's one of the greatest sporting things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was good.
And I've told you, I was dancing in the streets in Willow Street in Wellington at 5 in the morning.
By yourself.
I didn't care, mate. People started coming down from the apartments, and all of a sudden you're meeting people. I didn't care. I was dancing. Yeah, I'd waited for this my whole life.
That's good. That's good. And,
that's what it means.
And hopefully we'll be doing the same in August this year.
Yeah, I hope so. So, should our players be playing NPC after this Super Rugby or being rested? Do we need to be playing games for these players before they get to South Africa?
Well, ultimately, I'd like them to play club rugby too.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
I think they should be playing NPC. It's just, you think of all the years gone by, and I know times are different now in terms of the finding a window for them to be able to play NPC. But I would like them to play NPC. A lot of them play very few Super Rugby games.
Well, this is a ridiculous thing. We get guys resting now, whereas we've got Artie playing in Japan, and you mentioned Rico playing in Ireland. Yeah. If they were back here playing Super Rugby, they would be being rested right now.
Yes, exactly.
Which is just nutso to me, isn't it?
So I would like them. Yeah, I'd like them to play NPC. It's one of the sad things about New Zealand rugby is our NPC. I was with AJ Wetton on Monday morning at Eden Park, and he was saying it's just
Stomper, I call him.
Stomper.
Remember that?
He just said it's really hard to get people to engage in the NPC. Where did we finish? Auckland finished 11th.
Had a terrible year last year.
Which is that's not good for New Zealand rugby, the biggest union finishing in the bottom of the NPC. So we need to get that right, and if we can get All Blacks playing, NPC, that'd be fantastic. But how does it fit into the window, really? When
I asked about whether you'd take a call or not, one of the other things, I was just a dumb old fan, man, but I'm hoping seriously that, there are so many names that you just think have got so much acumen. It's not like since you've finished playing that you haven't been involved in the game, don't love the game, don't think about the game, don't talk about the game with whoever comes into your life, right?
Yeah.
And all of that knowledge and what you've just been, talking about in the last 20 minutes or so, to me, it is as relevant now as it ever was. I don't see how it's not relevant. And I hope that David Kirk, who to me is, what I really like about him is he's such a strategist. He thinks clearly, deeply about a lot of things, that he's thinking along these lines as well.
What I've loved...
You know him a lot better.
And what I've loved being back this year is that, it wasn't a great autumn for us in terms of the All Black results. But what I've loved when I've come back now, people care. People are caring about, a number of times I was at Sail GP, which is a fantastic event. I bloody loved that. That was good fun. And Russell's done an amazing job.
Apart from the boats colliding, that was terrible, wasn't it? God, that was awful. Yeah. But it is a great event.
There's a number of All Blacks there, and a lot of passionate rugby people there that just wanted to talk about it. What are we doing? How do we do it? How do we fix it? Because we're, as in our day, we're all shareholders, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
And you and I are great fans.
Yep.
And we're shareholders of that beautiful jersey of ours. So I'm pleased that people are caring. I like what I see from David in terms of the way he's representing us. And I said to him the other day, I said, as a past All Black captain, well done in terms of the way he's going about the process he's going about things. So it's fingers crossed that we get it right in terms of the right people in the right positions.
Yeah, I only bring this up because one of the things, and hindsight's everyone is so wise in hindsight, aren't they? And when you look at the team that Scott Robertson had around him, to me the glaring thing was why aren't there names in there that have been there, done it, but won it. Not just done it, but won it. And why wouldn't you tap into that?
Yeah.
And there was just this really untidy period of All Black rugby here, Sean, where Ian Foster was disrespected when he was the coach. Again, all that stuff to me, I like the Alex Ferguson thing. You do all that behind the closed door. You never let the rest of the world see any of that bollocks, do you? Because we keep a different face to the public. And that kind of stuff got really messy. And I kind of, I just think that whatever we need to do, I'm just airy-fairy thing where we need to be all on that same page. If we're not, it's not going to work. There's only 5.5 million of us, right?
Yeah. I want people that obviously care, and we all care. Most people care. But I don't like people with other agendas that are trying.
That's a good way of putting it.
That are trying to get people thrown out, or So if you've got something positive to say, it's like you're in the media. Do we read the media when we were players? Of course we do.
You always said you didn't.
But only the people you respect are the ones that have got the right things to say. And if you had said things about me in 92 or 93, 94, and it was quite a few years actually, I'd go, oh yeah, shit, he's actually right. He's actually right what he's saying. So take that aside. So I like positive people. They've got some, that are adding value to what we're trying to achieve, rather than chipping away at past coaches or new coaches or CEOs, chairman. Let's all be positive in terms of trying to get it right.
Jamie and Dave, and it feels like we know these people already. I've never met them a few times and talked to them and that, but these names are out there now, whether they like it or not. And these, as you say right at the very start of this, that these are the two names because of the criteria that's been established in that. The possibility that two guys like that can work together, could that happen?
If they can, that'd be fantastic.
Can you have more than one coach, or do you need one overriding coach?
I think you need a head coach that sets where we're going and the standards and the culture and all that stuff. Which I always talk about culture, it's just behaviours, and that's about people. So. And that's what I like particularly about these two guys, is that they're good people, and I know both of them, which is what we need. I'm not saying that we didn't have that, but I know, especially Jamie, I know really well. He understands people, which is ultimately what we need, and then they need to surround themselves with the right people. You think back to Ted and to Fozzie and Steve Hansen. They had good people around them in terms of scrum coaches, the Wayne Smiths of the world. That's wow! What a
brains trust,
Yeah. And just they'd be challenging. I can imagine them sitting around the breakfast table in the morning just challenging each other.
Yeah, well, the Shag said in the end you'd had to tell people to go home and leave the room because they'd be arguing all night about stuff. So, I love that though,
Yeah, so if we can get the right people, and we have got the right people. We've got some real talent around the world.
Would you keep the assistants that are there at the moment? There are so many people that think, let's sweep the broom clean. I mean, it's probably an open-ended, ambiguous question, isn't it? Because you sort of think, okay, I don't know exactly what they all did or what they impressed upon the team exactly. But that's what David Kirk needs to find out, isn't it? Exactly what you did.
He needs to, find out who's who and what they do, and so they should have a part in that and making the decision making who is going to be with the coach.
Couple of questions before we let you go. Let's go back to Super Rugby first, then and now, 1996. And, people, in case you don't know the history of this, the sport was amateur up until 1995, even though there's a bit of a brown paper bag thing going on. But then you were involved in that whole thing where all of a sudden World Rugby was approaching. We were... Thankfully, everyone signed with the All Blacks and stayed with New Zealand Rugby. And then the first season of Super Rugby. And you look back now at the footage of it, and damn, it's a different game, isn't it?
I look back, it's 30 years.
30 years, mate.
30 years.
Crazy, eh?
We were in Palmerston North playing the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And no one sort of, what's going on here? And then it just grew legs, didn't it? And, you think about us at Eden Park, just capacity crowds playing Natal Sharks. They weren't even the Sharks in those days, just Natal. Yeah. From Durban, and then all the travelling we did. It was just fun. And people like you and my friends, out the back of Eden Park, we had a big screen there watching the next game as we were having boot parties and just, and that's, the fan engagement is there's another discussion we could have in terms of how people consume sport. But the fan engagement is massive. And you look back to those days when that was a new product, just mind-blowing, the number of people that were following rugby who probably didn't even like rugby, but liked the environment.
It was a show.
It's like Sail GP. What Russell's created down there is, most people don't even know anything about sailing.
Don't have to.
But just like the environment.
Yeah, like the event.
Yeah.
And look, and at the time, of course, obviously, there's so many more choices these days, and we have, a lot of people consume sport on their phone as opposed to going to the ground and watching it. Cricket used to pack out for the one-dayers, for example. You couldn't get a ticket to anything like that, right? That's all changed. But I don't believe the essence of actually liking the sport and following the sport has changed.
No.
And I hope not. And I hope that this is their biggest challenge. Carl Budge, who's an excellent dude and going to be a great CEO for the Blues, he's really real about this. What I like about that guy is he's the first not to hide behind it and try and pretend what we're seeing, that there are bigger crowds than there are. What he's saying is that we just got to get people who are watching back to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Good on him for saying it. Because that's
make it easy. Look, a lot of the grounds around the world are difficult to get to, even in the Premier League. You try and get to Tottenham, get to Spurs. It's in Tottenham. So we need to make it accessible, and that's what I like what Eden Park's doing now that they've got all these new events on. They're going to create opportunities for people to be able to go and watch events and watch rugby.
As far as the league goes, that is bigger now than it has ever been in New Zealand as well. But I don't see how you can't like both sports. I just think, I can watch the Warriors and watch the rugby.
I love it. I love that the State of Origin's coming to Eden Park.
Yeah.
Game 2. Wow, that's so cool. What Ellie and the guys are doing in the football, that's fantastic. So I think if I'm talking about Auckland, there's a real buzz about the city, which hasn't been there of late.
On your phone, if you ever ring Sean, there's a photo of you shaking hands with Nelson Mandela. That's still the photo on your phone.
Yeah.
How special is that?
Oh, he's just for me, he was such an icon. He was such an inspirational man. I think what he did in '95 in terms of walking onto the ground, wearing the Springbok jersey.
Francois jersey,
the jersey of his oppressors. He's been in jail for 27 years. And thinks, no, one team, one country. And now what we do with Laureus is all about him. He came to the first awards, spoke to the academy, just said sport is such a powerful tool to use as a mechanism for change. And we still live that today. There's a few more of us now, but we're 25 years old.
Yeah, it's an amazing organisation. People look it up, what you do. I didn't realise actually you did so much outside of the big superstars, because that's just part of it, they're big sports awards, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what you actually do at the grassroots and the ground
Yeah,
level.
we're involved in 300 projects around the world with children, basically, that use sport as a mechanism for change. And most of the kids that we deal with are at risk in the favelas in Brazil or in India. All around the world, we're in 45 countries. We've done work here in New Zealand, which has been amazing.
Great.
So that's nice.
Has it been a good life? What rugby has been able to give you as much as what you've given it back?
I love the fraternity, and when you retire, you're involved in this fraternity and living in London. You obviously get to see a lot of the guys you played against, which we never sort of spoke when we were playing. So I like that. I like the culture of it. I like the sort of people that come out of it. But I also like the other sports that we're involved in now. And I love coming back here. I love coming back to New Zealand, as we do every year. And seeing my mates, like seeing AJ and Joe Stanley on Monday morning. It was like I haven't seen Bullet for, I don't know, 10 years.
Does he still look 35?
No.
Oh, that's good. Last time I saw him, I said to him, "God, you don't age,
He
pal."
looks good. He looks good. But it's just you hug and you kiss each other, and it's like it was like yesterday. So no, that's all good.
What have they got planned for you for South Africa this year? In terms of what is the old team getting together for it, or what?
I don't know, actually. We haven't spoken about that, but we should. Obviously, it's a lot easier coming from the UK than coming from here. But I'll definitely try and get down there to watch a few of the test matches. And
it's such a special rivalry, isn't it? I mean, we're planning on going this year. I've never been. It's a dream come true to think of going and watching. No, I've never been. But I wanted to go and watch the All Blacks. That to me is part of going to South Africa. I know that there's safaris and there's sharks and there's all kinds of different things in that. But as a guy, a young teenager who was out on the streets in 81 and carrying on, and then to be in a position now where you look at it and think, wow, I want to go there, and I just want to actually dive in the deep end of this thing.
I love showing you around a bit.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and I look forward to us winning over there.
Yeah,
like not going shy over there.
No, I think we can.
What a pleasure to have you in the studio as always, mate.
Lovely. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, mate.
Leave us a comment. And if you're a South African, leave us a comment about wanting to scrum, Sean, because that's just one of those things, isn't it? Everywhere you go.
I want to scrum you.
But isn't that part of the love of the thing?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Isn't it?
I always talk about Alan Border. That was when he used to come to Eden Park, everyone booed him.
Yes.
And I said to him, "What do you think about this?" And he said, "It's a mark of respect," which is true.
Yeah. Because trying to get that guy out was just impossible, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, good.
He just epitomised Australian cricket to me, Alan Border.
Yeah, him and Steve Waugh.
Yeah. We will do this again.
Very good. Thank you.
Huge thank you to Novus for sponsoring this episode of DSPN. Novus Glass are proud partners of the Trees That Count initiative, meaning every Novus Glass job helps plant native trees and supports restoration projects all over the country. So far, they've donated over 20,000 trees. And when you choose Novus Glass, you'll get your windscreen repaired or replaced, and you get to help protect our planet. How good's that? Notice it, Novus it. Call your local Novus Glass branch direct. Thank you, Novus.
Devlin.